And so the present paranoia in the United States that is going on, where everybody is thinking up a new scapegoat, how great it will be to demolish them or get them out of power. All this kind of bickering and right and left politics has become irrelevant, because we now have the opportunity of trusting our own intelligence, our own technology, to take the risk of doing what we want, which will work to the extent that we realize that what I want, basically, what I really want is what you want. And I don't know what you want. Surprise me. But that's the kinship between I and thou. So when I ask, I go right down to the question, which we started with. What do I want? The answer is, I don't know. When Bodhidharma was asked, who are you? Which was another form of the same question, he said, I don't know. Planting flowers to which the butterflies come. Bodhidharma says, I know not. I don't know. When you don't know what you want, you've really reached the state of desire. When you really don't know. You see, there's a beginning stage of not knowing, and there's an ending stage of not knowing. In the beginning stage, you don't know what you want because you haven't thought about it, or you've only thought superficially. Then when somebody forces you to think about it and go through and say, yeah, I think I'd like this, I think I'd like that, I think I'd like the other, there's the middle stage. Then you get beyond that. Say, is that what I really want? In the end you say, no, I don't think that's it. I might be satisfied with it for a while, and I wouldn't turn my nose up at it, but it's not really what I want. Why don't you really know what you want? 2 reasons that you don't really know what you want. Number 1, you haven't. Number 2, you don't know yourself, because you never can. The Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge. Just as a knife doesn't cut itself, fire doesn't burn itself, light doesn't illumine itself. It's always an endless mystery to itself. I don't know. And this I don't know, uttered in the infinite interior of the spirit, this I don't know is the same thing as I love, I let go, I don't try to force or control. It's the same thing as humility. And so the Upanishads say, if you think that you understand Brahman, you do not understand. You have yet to be instructed further. If you know that you do not understand, then you truly understand. For the Brahman is unknown to those who know it, and known to those who know it not. And the principle is that any time you, as it were, voluntarily let up control, in other words, cease to cling to yourself, you have an access of power. Because you're wasting energy all the time in self-defense, trying to manage things, trying to force things to happen. The moment you stop doing that wasted energy is available. Therefore, you are, in that sense, having that energy available, you are one with the divine principle. You have the energy. When you're trying, however, to act as if you were God, that is to say, you don't trust anybody and you're the dictator and you have to keep everybody in line, you lose the divine element. Because what you're doing is simply defending yourself. So then, the principle is, the more you give it away, the more it comes back. Now you say, I don't have the courage to give it away. I'm afraid. And you can only overcome that by realizing you better give it away, because there's no way of holding on to it. The meaning of the fact, you see, that everything is dissolving constantly, that we're all falling apart, we're all in a process of constant death, and that the world we hope men set their hearts upon turns ashes, or it prospers and like snow upon the desert's dusty face, lighting a little hour to all that Markayan jazz. The cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the great globe itself, I all that you see, all falling apart. That's the great assistance to it. That fact that everything is in decay is your helper. That is allowing you that you don't have to let go, because there's nothing to hold on to. It's achieved for you, in other words, by the process of nature. So once you see that you just don't have a prayer, it's all washed up, and that you will vanish and leave not a rack behind. Really get with that. Suddenly you find you have the power. This enormous access of energy. But it's not power that came to you because you grabbed it. It came in entirely the opposite way. Power that comes to you in that opposite way is power with which you can be trusted.
1/100th of the diameter of the sun is about a small star. Creep out of such an integrity, nothing gets lost. It would print clearly then the exporting means that there must be importing places. And but the stars are all visible to you and I because the energy they give off exporting. We would not be able to identify an importing center off in space because it wouldn't give off anything to be identified by, unless we happen to bounce a signal off it. But it takes so many minutes if you to get there and coming back, we're not really able to do much about it. But our own planet, we discover, is a place where the energies of the universe are being collected, where the sun radiation being pounded by the vegetations and the algae, and converted by photosynthesis, beautiful orderly molecular structure, making hydrocarbons out of disorderly receipts. Therefore, this quite clearly is a place where the biologicals are taking the energies, sorting them out, turning them into orderly structure, and burying them ever more deeply, we call the fossil fuels. And we have, amongst all the biologicals, only the vegetation can do the impounding of the sun radiation. The mammals, such you and I, have to then eat the vegetables or the algae or one of the fish that have grown from one of the other animals. And so I find then that we have the human beings, amongst all the biologicals, has the most extraordinary sorting capability, which is that of the mind, which in principle then can do that. So I'd say, if you invent a very complex machine such as the Boeing 747, you have to have a whole lot of instruments. Those instruments are telling you about all the stresses, strains, heats, and relative pressures, and then you once in a while discover something on those information that says, in fact, the lack of information says the pilot's got to take over from automatic, and only by virtue of his access to the principle of the universe could he possibly save the ship. I say then, in designing a much more complex thing, which would be the eternally regenerative universe, you would have to have some local sensing mechanisms that are able then to take very sensitive readings and then to solve problems by virtue of that access to the principle of the universe. Apparently, human beings have then what one might call a local and universe monitoring function of the problem solving. And I say, what is common to all lives in all history? Problems, problems, problems. We're here for that. And when we play games such as baseball, you knock something out and it's disorderly, then how do you convert it to order as quick as possible in the first place, wherever you throw it? So that our game on our planet is this problem solving. So anyway, our point was that I found myself an outsider, and because I was an outsider, then I tended to look at the total information rather than the strong. So I realized that we might be crossing a threshold where instead of just it had to be you or me in a battle of power and might, see who's going to live and who's going to die. It might be that the principle would make it possible to make everybody successful.
The latter, the former...
But yet we didn't know about those principles earlier.
The former being on the idea of scarcity, that there was a condition of scarcity and that we would be coming to a moment of a realization of a surplus capability that had been introduced through our metaphysical, intellectual
If we really use the resources in an intelligent way, always in principle and not just for me. If then instead of hoarding for me, for my survival, we really looked into the synergy, which is the principle operating between systems I spoke about, that the mind and mind alone can discover, where we discover these are behaviors of whole systems unpredicted by the behaviors of the past, like the gravity of the moon and Earth. So I said, I can see that only if we really begin to operate together and employ those principles, could we really possibly make man a success. And I began to look into that matter and saw that we didn't know how to fly and do a lot of these things very well, but we were assuming that there's not enough ground, so we were doing only a tackling science for war, or how are you going to kill to see which one is going to survive.
It's true. That's been the history of the human condition, has been a condition of scarcity. And it's you who has postulated I remember take particular reference to the article that was in the Life magazine in 1952, postulating a transference from the condition of scarcity, which had been characteristic of the human condition, to 1952, having arrived at, 43% coefficient between happiness and the world's population, and you're projecting a 20-odd year period to just about the time that we find ourselves in now, mid-1974, to when the planet would cross the 50% mark, and there would be a new kind of condition begin to be relevant to the assigning of our planetary design priorities. And it would seem to me that you had been gauging that with such an incredibly accurate kind of of ability that was, in a sense, quite unique. I don't think there are too many people now who have a fundamental sense that we may be on the dawn of a new capability to realize surplus is the basic underlying assumption for assigning design.
Out to you where I saw that I saw a man knew exactly what that airplane weighed and what he was getting out of it. He knew just what the ship of the sea weighed. But he doesn't think about buildings in terms of weight. He thinks of them sort of as fortresses.
Yes.
The bigger and heavier and higher, the more secure. I saw then, because he was putting his science only on the airplane and so forth as a weapon, did he do that. But he assumed that